I'm a bit of a walker and a talker.
And a doer. Don't forget that.
And I'm a messer up. All right, thank you so much, Terry, for your words. And my name is Nicole Reffitt. My husband is political prisoner 376782. He was taken in a pre-dawn raid January 16th of 2021. Did not see my husband's face again for 14 months. He did not enter the Capitol. He is not charged with assault. He received 7.5 years in prison for an obstruction charge that now our President Trump is now charged with. My husband was the very first trial, and after I saw what the government did to him and my family that day, I knew that I had to be in D.C. Unfortunately, what we didn't know when they took my husband that day is it was our 18-year-old son that had turned him into the FBI. Really hard stuff there, but not unusual to history, because that is what they do, is they tear families apart. And that is a lot of what they're doing to January 6ers. They're tearing the families apart. They want us down, defeated. They don't want us to have a voice. But I'm going to give my husband a voice every day. I'm going to give Ashley Babbitt a voice every day. Thank you. Mr. Jones. Okay, so, after I was in that courtroom and I saw this judge, and I saw the FBI agents lying, and they lied. And it was really hard for me to wrap my brain around that because, I was brought up to believe that people that hold these positions are people of integrity, that these people took these jobs to protect our country and to protect its citizens. But that is not what they're doing. This is a weaponized DOJ and a weaponized FBI. And they will do anything in their power to make sure that you sit down and you shut up. And what they're doing with the Jan 6ers is they're using them to make sure you shut your mouth. They're using them to instill fear into you to where you don't want to come to a place like this today, where you don't want to unite with other patriots and say, you know what, this is what I want for my country. They want you to be afraid and they want you to go home. They do not want you to have a voice. And I see it every day in these courtrooms in D.C. I've sat through more cases of January 6ers than any other one person. I've seen more judges disobey their oath for an agenda. There are so many stories that I could tell you about. What I'm going to tell you, though, is that when my husband got sentenced, Ashley Babbitt's mother, Mickey Whithoff, she came and sat with me and the girls. And it meant so much to us because people are so afraid to be associated with Jan 6ers, especially early on. It was very taboo. Nobody wanted to touch you. Nobody wanted anything to do with it because they were afraid. And you're going to hear me use this word afraid a lot because fear is what they want you to be. They want you to live in fear. So I'm going to use that word a lot because we have to get over it. We have to wrap our brains around the fact that we cannot be afraid anymore. If we want a future for our country, our children, our grandchildren, fear is not in your vocabulary. It's not. You wrap on that armor of God and you get up and you get out in it, is what you do. So when Ashley's mother came, Mickey, and she sat with us, and she heard then that day what that judge said to my husband. Basically, you have no First Amendment. That is an illusion. You believe that you have a First Amendment right in this country. You absolutely do not. If I've seen anything, you cannot even use the First Amendment as an argument of why you were there on January 6th. It's not allowed. That is not a defense for you. Your first is absolutely dead, and you really need to think about that. They allow you to say what they allow you to say, and if you cross that line, you will be put down. So as we went after my husband's sentencing, we went out that night to the D.C. Gulag, we call it, where they house all of the Jan 6ers awaiting trial or awaiting sentencing. And we have a Patriot pod there, and they sing the national anthem every night at 9 o'clock from from the beginning. From the very beginning they were in there, they started singing that anthem as a form of protest that this government is not going to shut us up. They do it every night at 9, and I please hope that you will join them. But we stood out there and we sang that anthem. And I went back home to the great state of Texas, gathered myself, and I knew I had to get up and do something. I knew I could not sit on my hands. I saw what this government was doing to my family, and I knew we were not singular. I knew that it was just not us. And so I called Mickey. She was still having the vigil. 3 weeks later, I am in D.C. We've been holding a vigil outside of the D.C. jail for 530-something days at this point, and we will continue to do it until there's justice for Ashley Babbitt and there's justice for Jan Sixers. And that is it. We will stand out there and sing that anthem. What these Patriots do, they have not changed the national anthem, but, you know, there is a part in the song where it says, still there. And they really emphasize that part. Our flag is still there. And you know why they say it that way? They say it that way because no matter what, that flag still stands for freedom, it still stands for bravery, and it is still there. No matter what this government has done to them, they are still going to get up and they're going to sing it. And I will sing it with them every night. And since that day, and Mickey's a warrior, and you know, in D.C., we do go to these court hearings every day. And I have heard judges say that the reason that there has to be such a level of deterrence for Jan Sixers is because this could never happen again. The peaceful transference of power cannot be disrupted. Well, there was no peaceful transfer of power. There wasn't even supposed to be, there was not even a transfer of power that day. What they did do was set up the American public. We did not get to send those votes back to the states, and they installed a coup. Yep. And so now here we are dealing with it. But how I'm dealing with it is I'm going to be in that courtroom, and I'm going to look these people in their faces and let them know you're not going to get away with it. I'm going to look at you in your face, and you are going to have to say these words, and I'm going to go out to everybody that I know. Because nobody's reporting on what they're doing to our countrymen inside those courtrooms. No one. Judge Kelly, who happens to be a term-appointed federal judge, just recently during Mr. Reed Christensen's sentencing said, you know, the level of deterrence for the public needs to be great. So what he is actually saying is that I'm going to sentence you so other Americans know that what you did is so wrong. Sit in your place and shut up. They want you to be afraid. They want you to have fear. He said, you know, D.C., the violence in D.C. is so bad. But, you know, for me to deter somebody from wiping the shelves off at Walgreens is not a threat to the community. What you did that day is a threat to the community. No, sir, it is a threat to this government, not to the community. Do not fool yourselves. These people are not locked up because they're a threat to you or me. They're locked up because they deem them a threat to the government. Now, really sit there and think about that. Think about your government locking people up because they don't want, because they're afraid of it. Because they're afraid that once they get out and they start telling, you know, people, hey, we got to take our country. No, they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to join an organization. They don't want you to know how to use your gun correctly. They don't want you to know how to stop the bleed. They don't want you to know how to purify your water. They don't want you in a group at all because they're going to call you a terrorist. And I wouldn't be surprised, and I don't want to frighten anybody, but you're not frightened because you're here. But I can guarantee you, I bet there's a vet out there in the parking lot right now taking down license plate numbers. And that is a fact. I have spoken at different events with Mr. Steve Friend, who happens to be an FBI whistleblower, and he will tell you the exact same thing. The reason he's not with the FBI anymore is because he did not want to go after law-abiding American citizens. When he found himself in the parking lot of a school board meeting taking down people's license plates, he said, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then they systematically ruined his life too. And took, because that's what they do. They're allowed to do that. And when you're in D.C. and our Patriots and our countrymen are going into that courtroom, They are fighting the sheer might of this United States government. You are walking into a lion's den, and we have to know that you're going to lose. Every Jan 6er that goes in and they try to plead their case, and I've seen it time and time again. They come in and they know my case is going to be the one because I didn't do anything wrong that day. My case is going to be the one that they're really going to see what happened, why I was there. No, you're going to be convicted and they're going to throw the book at you. And that's a fact. But you have to take this government to task, and do not be afraid of them. Because that's what they want. Once again, they want you afraid. They want you scared, and they want you to sit in your place, and they want you to pay your taxes and shut up about it. Because when you do stand up, they're going to say, look what these Jan 6ers, look what happened to them. Because that's what they're doing. And I can guarantee you, this is not the first. The Jan 6ers are going to be the first round. The next round are going to be the Catholics. The next round are going to be people that are trying to take back their school board because they're already doing it. So Jan 6 is just the beginning. And Jan 6 did change our lives. It changed America. And when they murdered Ashley Babbitt that day, part of America died with her. And, Mickey and I are in D.C. because her death is not going to be in vain. My husband's detention will not be in vain. They went there as patriotic Americans to stand up for what they believe is right. And many of you know the reasons why they were there. Terry touched on it. It wasn't just about an election that lacked integrity. It was about our suppression as American patriots. We saw what they were doing. We see now even more what they're doing. They are so horrified about this narrative getting out about January 6th that you see this administration panicking. You see the amount of arrests ticking up, and you don't know that. You know why you don't know that? Because they're not letting you know that daily. 2 days ago, a man in Frisco just got picked up. Taken in, and he's going to have to go against the sheer might of the United States government. And what this government also does is they pick you up. You're going to get picked up on your 4 basic misdemeanors. And then they're going to want you and intimidate you and make you try to take that plea. When you don't take that plea, they're going to supersede you. And what that means is they're going to give you a felony charge now. Okay? Well, I still don't think I did anything wrong. I think I'm going to take it there. Well, you know what? We're going to supersede you again until you are so afraid that you take a plea because they want you to bend a knee. And when you get in that courtroom, if you take this government to task and you get up there and you try to tell your story about why you were there that day, because it was true of heart for so many patriots there that day. They went there with such good intentions. And they go up and they want to tell their story. Well, at the end of it, you're a liar. They're going to say that you committed perjury. Because how could you absolutely believe that that's why you were there? Well, how dare they? I know why my husband was there. I know why many people were there. And how dare you take their voice away from them once again? Once again, here they are, shutting the people's mouths and calling them a liar on the record. Well, we have to continue the fight. We have to continue because as they rack up these arrests, and I believe right now we're at 1,238 arrests, 1,238 of your countrymen have been taken in because of their political beliefs. Not because they're a danger to the community, not because they're so afraid of what they may do to their fellow person. They're afraid of what they're going to do to the government. And once again, I want you to really wrap your brain around that. Many of these people have been out. They've never had a criminal history. They've been living their lives, going to work, and now they're being picked up in pre-dawn raids and saying that you're a danger. Well, you're not. You're only a danger to them. And they know it, and they're starting to scratch, and they're starting to scramble. And that's what we want. And we have to be bold enough and brave enough to be able to come together like this and say, yes, as Americans, as my countrymen are being locked up and put away. We have political prisoners all over this country. They're everywhere. You can go to Fort Ashley. We have an interactive map where you can click on your state, and it's going to bring up everyone detained in each state. And it is appalling. It is appalling because it's not just 1,230 plus of your countrymen. It's their wives, it's their parents, it's their children. Mr. Reed Christensen, when he was just sentenced, what they used against him was that he said if he had 2 lives to give, he would give them both to his country. And that was used against him. They sentenced him harsher because he would die for his country. Now let's also think about that. Let's really think about what this government is saying to us. That if you're willing to die for this country, that scares them even more. Well, I know I'm willing to give my life. I know Ashley Babbitt gave her life. And I know many of you here, or you wouldn't be here, that you would be willing to give your life. But all I'm asking you to do is not give your life, but I'm asking you to give your voice to these Jan 6ers. And no matter what, please go out and you need to talk about it with your community. I understand that, that is where we have to start. You have to start at your gas station talking to the clerk. And then you start in your church. And you say, you know what, do you know we have political prisoners? Do you know that our government murdered citizens, unarmed citizens that day? And that's something you also have to understand is this government will murder you. Because they murdered Ashley, and they murdered Roseanne, and they murdered Benjamin Phillips, and they murdered Kevin Greason. And they did it. And Dave will talk about it later because he's very well versed on it. And not laughing at that. But, the thing is that it was really hard for me to swallow. I love this country. I loved everything about it. But then when your government turns on you the way that they did on January 6th, it was shocking. It was absolutely shocking. And they did. They came in and they waged war on the American people. And those videos that are coming out will show what they did. But what the government did not count on, and what they still don't even really believe in, is the American spirit. Because that is what we have. That is what our forefathers gave us. They gave us a legacy that we cannot let go. We can't. We cannot let that go. Because it is important to my grandchildren. It is important to your grandchildren. Because I don't want to wake up one day and tell them about an America that I used to live in. There was an America where you were free, and that your First Amendment was solid, and your second too. Because I'll tell you what, people don't like it when I say it, because the forefathers wrote it this way. When your first is dead, your second is there for a reason. And it absolutely is. They wrote it that way because they knew at one time all of this would be happening. They knew that, our republic could not last, because you only have a republic for as long as you can keep it. And we're losing it, y'all. We're losing it. If it's not already lost, I don't want to be that, so negative, because I do see a lot of things and I wonder, are we too late? Are we too late? Are we too afraid? Are people too afraid? Are they too afraid of the illusion of what they thought America was? Because what America was is an illusion. That is not how America works anymore. It just isn't. You cannot go into these courtrooms being a Jan 6er and say I was exercising my First Amendment. They say, no, you can't even talk about your First Amendment. Not even allowed to. And when they talk about these assaults, many of these Jan 6ers are charged with assault with no victim. Don't you wonder how that could be? You know why? Because the victim is the government. The victim is a group of people. They don't have to have a named victim. I've seen so many people be sentenced and there's no named victim. There's no one there to say, yes, you injured me. None. But yet they still get sentenced with the assault. And then, and many of the assaults, just like Terry was talking about, what the government does when they present this evidence, is like they will take a still of your arm being up, and now you have an assault. Now you have an assault charge. You don't have to show the whole video. You don't have to, because the government gets to show what they want, and they only show what they want. And, you know, Mickey goes and she sits in these courtrooms because they don't want to say Ashley's name on the record. And she still sits there. And these judges still say that there were officers that died that day. They still say it. I heard Judge Walton say it not 2 weeks ago. There were no officers that died that day. The only people that were murdered were 4 unarmed American citizens. And they want to spin this narrative. We cannot allow this government to control the narrative because they are nothing but liars and cheaters. And we've seen it happen over and over again. Everything that Patriots showed up for that day is coming to happen. Everything they went to stop, everything they went to protest is happening. And, you know, you see these people that have been, my husband's been inside for 36 months now. Or almost. And, you know, many of these guys have been in just this long. And they're looking at long time. They're looking at long. You're looking at Enrique Tarrio, 22 years. He was not even in D.C. And they got Enrique, and as soon as they dropped that conviction on Enrique, you know, it was 9 days later they dropped the indictment on Trump. All the way through all these Jan 6 trials, all they've been doing is planning their argument for Trump. Because all the arguments have been played out. The change of venue arguments have been played out. The 1512 arguments have been played out. So that's all this has been about. They used Patriots to get to their number one that they thought they had to take down, and they're steady doing it. And this is where you can see their fear come in. This is what I like. I need them to be afraid because they are. They're afraid of me. They're afraid of y'all. They're afraid of y'all sitting here today. But look at you. Look at you Patriots out here, you know. That's right. Thank you so much because we have to show up and stand up every chance we get. We cannot let this be idle. These are our countrymen. It's not just my husband. Because I honestly believe that this is bigger than the remnants. This has to do with y'all. If you stand by and you see your countrymen and women being taken in pre-dawn raids, politically persecuted, and that's what they're doing. They're politically persecuting them. Do you sit back? Do you sit there and say, well, it's not me? Because it absolutely is you. It is your ideology. It is your faith. All these people are you. They could be you. But you cannot be afraid. Look at Terry. Terry, they could come in and get Terry any second. But he still has to stand up and speak. He has to. You have to. That's all I need for us to be together throughout this country is to get out and spread the word. We have to tell every person we know we have political prisoners in our country and our government is continuing to pick them up. Don't be afraid to say it. Take some information. Watch Dave's 1,000 Days of Terror. You're going to find out some really good information in these things, and you're going to want to go out and tell people because it is your responsibility as a citizen to go out and tell people, look at what's happening. And when we hold these vigils outside of the D.C. jail, and we do it every night, and we sing the anthem with them every night, these guys call out, and we do a roll call of everyone that's detained. And it goes on and on and on. And it gets longer. And it's going to continue to get longer. But at this point, it is our duty. It is our responsibility. I will always give my husband a voice, and I will continue to give Ashley a voice. Because she went there that day as a proud American, and she came home in a box, and then her mother could not even bury her because nobody wanted to touch it. They could not find anyone to bury her because the government had put such a stigma on it. And then that woman gets up every day and she goes out and she is a warrior for her daughter. And not just for her daughter, but for all Jan 6ers. That's right. I'm so proud of her. Because, yeah, Mama Mickey, but she's a warrior. And she is going to get justice for Ashley. Because justice for Ashley will be justice for all of our patriots. Justice for Roseanne is justice for all of our patriots. And you know, our people are mocked in these courtrooms by saying, you are not a patriot. You are the antithesis of being a patriot. Well, you're lying. Just because this judge says this does not make it true. Once again, this is me trying to reprogram my brain because, like everyone, you think these judges, you think these FBI agents are people of integrity. They are not. They are bought and paid for. Many of the people that on January 6th, the Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd, who murdered Ashley Babbitt, was promoted. He was promoted after he murdered her. You know, most of these people, Capitol Police officers and Metro PD, have been promoted. They have gone up the chain of command. And you know why? Because they were bought and paid for. They were bought and paid for their story. Michael Byrd was rewarded for murdering Ashley because it absolutely had to be the Capitol Police that made the murder that day because they work without impunity. They do not have anyone that oversees them except for the Capitol Police Board. And that's it. There was no investigation done. There was nothing. They barely wiped up Ashley's blood before they went about the business of the day. Think about that. There was no investigation. Because she was just a rioter who deserved to get shot, is what they say. They don't want to say her name in the courtroom. I've sat there and sat right beside her mother when they have removed her name from the record and asked for it to be taken off. And she sat there and took it. And she takes it because she has to be Ashley's voice. I sit there and I watch what happens to our countrymen day after day in these courtrooms, and I listen to it because it is my duty to sit there with them and make sure they're not alone, that they know when they look out that they have somebody on their side, because this government is not on your side. They make sure as soon as you walk into that courtroom that you know you are the enemy to them, and they make sure of it. It disgusts me to know that our system is so corrupt, and how do we fix it? Because I don't know. I'm just a regular gal from Texas. The only way I know to fix it is if we stand together and fix it. We have to stand together and we have to tell them this is our country. You are not taking it. I'm not going to take it from them anymore either. I will get on any stage they can, and I will let you know about our political prisoners. I will let you know about what we're doing in the DC Gulag. Because what we do outside of the DC Gulag is not only give these people a voice and a platform, we give their families an outlet. They look forward to hearing their family member's name every night because they feel that connected to them. Because our patriots that are inside, they are denied visits. They do not have video visitations. Like I said, it was 14 months before I ever saw my husband's face, and then I still didn't even get to visit him. And because of the system, and because maybe of my advocacy, I have only sat in the room with him once since he's been taken in. Which is tough, because I've been married almost 25 years to that man. We have 3 beautiful children. But this government is turning our kids against us. You know, COVID did a lot. When COVID came around, and I'm going to tell you now a bit of my personal story. When COVID happened, we were very much anti-maskers. We did not believe what was happening. But my son did. And then we were the enemy. We slowly became more of the enemy, and as the summer came along and all of those horrible things were happening, you know, he viewed us more and more as the enemy, and that is by design. It's not the first time in this world that these tactics have been used against people. If you can tear the family apart, you can get at anyone, because that is where you gain your support, your people. And when your children turn against their parents, it's tough. It's hard to swallow. But I know that he's young. And I know that what we're standing for is right. But this is not singular to us. I have met so many people who they do not have relationships with their kids because of the divide that has been placed on us by this government. This government set this divide in there. And, you know, when I look out, my daughters are here, guys' mothers here, you know, we have all this beautiful support. But it breaks my heart because my son's not here. But he will be one day. And my husband will be here one day.
Amen.
Ashley's never going to be here. Ashley was murdered, and we must continue this fight to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Because this government will kill you to prove a point. They absolutely will. And you cannot be afraid of that. You absolutely can't be. You know, when our country is on the line, and it is, because this is the only place left to go. There is no other place after this country is gone for anybody to go. It's it. And if we let this go, it is our fault. It is our responsibility. Because honestly, when tyranny becomes law, revolution becomes duty, and I truly do believe that. And tyranny is law right now. What they are doing is taking our countrymen and using them against their own people. So I hope that if you can get any information, go to Patriot Relief. I can tell you they have helped my family, and I know for a fact how many families that come out on the corner that have gotten help from Patriot Relief. And so I appreciate everything Mark and Kevin and Mary and Jalise and Terry. They do amazing work. On the vigil, we do a live stream from there, and every night. And I know lots of people that are out here join in the live stream, and I so much appreciate that because, you know, it is your prayers that keep the armor of God on us while we're in D.C. Honestly, we walk in such faith when we're there. We walk with our heads high because we know that y'all have us in prayer, and that the Lord has us wrapped in His armor. And it is so comforting. So, you know, I'm going to see, do y'all have any questions maybe about Jan 6 or anything?
Mentioning some of the live streamers.
Oh, I can totally mention the live streamers. Okay, so we got 1791 Stormtrooper. Hey, troopers out there. He has done so much good work. Thank you, Judy, for having this event today also. It's amazing, and I appreciate you for that. And all the work that you do. Miss Judy over here put this on for us, so I would like to point her out. And so, like I said, live streamers have really taken what we do out on the corner to a whole other level. We have thousands of views a week. I know that doesn't seem like that much, but when you have a speaker, a microphone beside a cemetery outside of a jail, what do you expect? But, you know, so 1791 as Stormtrooper. We also have, that's the only one I really know. Oh, yes, we have We the People MAGA. I have a flyer, so why don't we do that? Glory be. Thank you, Jay Jones. You want to come up here and tell them? Well, you know, the live streaming really has taken it to another level, and we couldn't have done it without it. And this is how I got to meet all these beautiful people out here. And which is an amazing thing. So I'm going to get off here because I'm